You are listening to the Tricorder transmissions. And now, here are Jeff and Ian.
Again, and welcome to the Tricorder Transmissions coverage of Gold Key Comics. Today we're going to be covering issue number 36, A Bomb in Time. I am your host, Jeff Hewlett, and with me is my Gold Key co-chair, Mr. Ian Adams.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing pretty good. And we've been making a lot of headway with these Gold Keys lately. We're more than halfway through the series.
Yeah, hard to believe.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Well, I mean, granted, they threw us a couple of bones lately, and obviously we jumped from 34 to 36 here because 35 was another reprint.
Yeah.
It was a reprint of issue number 4, The Peril of Planet Quick Change.
Planet Quick Change.
Yeah, that was a really weird one. But we've skipped 2 issues so far that were reprints, and I think there's a couple more coming down the pike that we're going to be jumping past because we've already covered them. But our coverage of issue number 4 is up and available on our website and is on YouTube as well. So if you haven't heard it before, you can go and jump up there. And that's also issue number 35. So if you wanted to fill the gap between the two, you can go ahead and check that one out. But this is issue number 36, A Bomb in Time, still with our intrepid artist, Alberto Giolitti. Published in March of 1976, and curiously, this one I think is even shorter than most. This is a 23.
It's 24.
Pages. 24.
Oh yeah, well 24
including the cover.
Counting the cover. Yeah.
Yeah, weird. They're just trimming a couple more pages off. Yeah. I don't know why that is.
I wonder maybe paper was getting more expensive.
Oh, maybe, and it's a quarter still, so they're charging the same amount of money for less comic. Let's see, Stardate 1925.9, cover art by Mr. George Wilson yet again.
And I couldn't find who the artist was.
Nor could I.
On the inside of this one.
Yeah, I couldn't either. I looked around and I thought maybe I was crazy again, but once again, no information to be had.
Yeah. Even that, like earlier when I'd found, you just drill in a little bit on Memory Alpha, like there was nothing even in there.
Yep, nope. I looked earlier too, and Zippo. I guess the writer wants to remain anonymous on this one, but, frankly, I don't think it's a horrible issue. I'd hang my name on it if I wrote it. But, yeah. We'll get more into that as we get into the issue itself here, and as we always do. We'll start off with the cover, and I gotta say, Ian, this cover is a little sparse, but I really dig it. You've got, 4 time periods essentially on the same cover, which is really neat. I think Scotty looks really good.
Yeah.
On the cover here.
He almost looks like he's swashbuckling with that phaser.
Yeah, it kind of almost like Pirate Scotty from one of the previous issues. But I love that 70s inspired fastback.
Yes.
Car. Is that like a Chevelle? I'm not sure even what that is.
I want to say it's a Ford just looking at the taillights, but I couldn't tell you for sure.
Yeah, it could be too, but it is very cool. I love it. It's got some really cool chrome rims on it.
Yeah.
Very cool. And there's nothing on the license plate, but it is orange. So what states had orange license plates back then?
California.
Was it? Oh, good call. Good call. Comes up in the issue too. So, Good call. So, again, another kind of throwback to TOS episode here. I think they got the chariot riding guy here with the horse-drawn chariot. Kind of reminds me of Bread and Circuses a little bit.
Yeah, and it seems pretty obvious that it's, most likely an Enterprise crew member because he seems to be firing a phaser there.
He does. It kind of doesn't look like a phaser, though. It looks like a pistol of some sort. Because Scotty looks like he has an actual phaser in his hand. But maybe it's just the distance from the viewer. It's smaller.
Yeah.
maybe it is a phaser. Those horses look really great.
Yeah.
Man, George Wilson, there's some great muscle tone on the legs of the horses there and our hindquarters. I love the detail.
Yeah, absolutely.
The painting, so fantastic. And the intricate work on the harnesses that wrap around them is really good, and their bridles and stuff. So, I mean, really, really great artwork here on the cover. I've got to hand it to George Wilson.
Indeed.
And what do we have in the foreground here? We've got some sort of a cowboy-looking guy getting...
Yeah, he's got a revolver.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty neat. So I guess we're going to see some cowboys in this issue as well. And there's some sort of strange floating gem-like thing.
Yeah.
We don't know
that
exactly
seems to be emanating some kind of energy or maybe light.
Yeah. Very peculiar. We will find out what that is, but there's no clues as to what it is. Well, I guess there is kind of
a maybe clue.
Yeah, maybe.
In the
tagline, yeah. A scientist escapes into time, capitalized time, with a doomsday bomb. Doomsday bomb. Maybe that's the doomsday bomb. It doesn't look like a bomb.
No, but it's, it's the future. Who knows what things will look like.
That's true. But, one other thing I wanted to just throw out about this cover is that I really like the swirling paint background on this. It's very simple, but I think it's really beautiful the way that George did the background for this with just the simple arcs of paint, and you can see the brushstrokes, especially behind Scotty in that rust color. I think it's really cool because they're implying that we have a time travel plot, which I'm totally on board for. I love time travel plots.
Yeah.
But you kind of got that swirly sort of feel like this is all happening in some sort of a time warp or spatial anomaly, right?
It definitely evokes that.
Yeah, very well done. So I think this cover, more than most, really captures the essence of the issue.
Absolutely. Yeah, this one is I can't say enough good things about George Wilson. I don't think he's done a cover yet that I haven't loved.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree. Some of them have been odd, but the artwork is always really good.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. Anything else you want to say about the cover before we jump inside the issue?
No, let's do it.
Okay, so guys, we're about to jump inside the issue here. So, once again, spoiler warning. If you don't want your reading of this issue spoiled, shut us off now, go find a copy, read it, and then come back and join us for our coverage of this issue. So we're going to jump inside the cover here. I'll give you a 3, 2, 1 count, and we are now on the teaser page. And God, Ian, let me tell you, I think this may be one of my favorite teaser pages of all time. This is so cool. Let me just really quickly read the text up in the upper right-hand corner. It says, hunting a needle in a haystack, even one that would rival the pyramids, is child's play compared to the staggering search that occupies the crew of the Starship Enterprise as they hunt for... ...
Dun, dun.
a bomb in time. And we've got a depiction here of what looks to be a busy freeway.
Yeah.
In a sort of a desert locale. There's some mesas in the background there. And there's a little overpass kind of in the back with cars kind of parked underneath it. Looks like some traffic jam going on. But in the foreground, we've got cars intermingled with 2 chariot riders being pulled by horses. Really interesting. And so, guys, a lot we could say about this cover. I don't want to go on forever, Ian. You can jump in here with your thoughts too.
Yeah, well, it does a really good job of setting up sort of the climax of the issue.
Yes.
When I first saw it, I was like, oh, this could be cool. And then as you start going through the issue, you start thinking, well, hang on, like, where did the chariots come from? And then when do they get to, a freeway? Like, it catches you off guard, but then by the time you get towards the climax of the issue, you're like, oh,
now it makes sense.
And then it becomes like kind of retroactively satisfying.
Yeah, Yeah, I agree. This is kind of you don't really know exactly when in the issue this scenario is going to happen. So I love the guy in the foreground here who's telegraphing what's going on in the scene. Goldkey's really good for that. So there's a guy in a car, and he's watching the chariots go by, and he's Roman chariots, guys in togas on a California freeway, and firing a ray gun. What's going on here? So confusing scene. Imagine, this is the 1970s, and you're on a freeway in California watching guys in chariots shooting laser guns. I guess his concern is genuine. I can buy into that.
Yeah.
And there's the guy in the rear chariot. He's a little too far in the distance. He's a little small. We can't see who he is, but I'm assuming he must be an Enterprise crew member of some sort, because he's firing what looks like a phaser, and he's saying that I fired that deliberately over your head, Professor Andres. Now turn over the doomsday bomb, or I won't miss with the next one. So a little ominous foreboding there.
Yeah. Although, it's a phaser, right? It has a stun setting, so just stun him.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's a couple of moments like that in this issue that I'm sure we'll be talking quite a bit about. I want to say that looks like Kirk to me at this point. We do find out who it is later, but at this point I remember thinking to myself it looked like Kirk.
Yeah.
Although the shirt looks like a Roman toga, not an Enterprise uniform. So what Kirk would be doing in a toga, I'm not sure. But
well, when in Rome.
When in California with Romans, dressed like Romans. But something I found curious about this is that the chariots are both kicking up dust on a highway.
Yeah.
That was a little strange to me.
I mean, I'll give it a pass just because they're obviously in the desert somewhere, but it was still a little fishy. Yeah.
Maybe there's enough sand built up on the roadway that they could kick up a cloud of it as they go by. But I do like the fact that they location stamped this as California.
Yeah.
I think, is this the first time we've seen Earth in a Goldkey comic? Oh, no, wait.
No,
we saw
there was the
Earth.
one. Yeah, there was the one where Kirk gets the plastic surgery to give him an afro.
Yeah, that was where he's being court-martialed for.
Right.
Yeah, so we've seen future Earth. This is the first time we've seen what in the present day Earth in the comics time frame, right?
Contemporary Earth.
Contemporary Earth. That would be familiar to us, but pretty cool that we're getting a little time in California. I like the fact that it's California, of course. Anything else you want to say about this cover before we move along? Or
no,
page rather.
I've got plenty to say about the next coming issues, so let's move on.
Fair enough. Okay, so we are starting out with this issue, and so we see the Enterprise is at a research satellite number 5, and they're there to witness some demonstrations of some new technology that is called the Sigma Ray, and Dr. Steckler is leading them through these various demonstrations. Now, I have to say really quickly, Ian, I'm going to stop because I'm sure you're going to say the same thing, but this space station is a 2001 ripoff, without a doubt.
Yep, absolutely. It is even down to the incomplete bits.
Yep.
On the lower ring there.
Yep.
It's obvious that they were looking at the Space Station 5 from 2001: A Space Odyssey, and just was saying well, let's just draw that.
Yeah.
And I even just now sent you a link to a picture of Space Station 5 from 2001: A Space Odyssey. For the listeners out there, I made a short URL for it. It's bit.ly/2JPB capital M N like November 6, and just open that up. It is exact.
I just opened it myself, and good God, I can't. They could get sued for that.
Yeah, I mean, plus you look at when in the captain's log, he says that it's Research Satellite 5.
Yeah.
Space Station 5, Research Satellite 5. I mean, come on.
Oh, man, really, really on the nose, man. That's a total rip. Wow, Gold Key. So, oh, man. So, anyway, they're getting shown around, and they're getting demonstrations of various bits of new technology. The first thing they see is something called the Sigma Ray, and Dr. Steckler is demonstrating that it can see through flesh and clothing and expose metal objects that are carried by an individual. So it's kind of like a body scanner or an X-ray scanner at an airport, right? So he says that it's designed to detect contraband weapons, and they're also working on a portable unit that can be used to detect them from a distance. So kind of like the wand you get swiped with at the airport sometimes if they detect something on you. So
right, and cool. I'm sure they would sell something like that on the back page of this very comic.
Wouldn't doubt it. Send it to Walla Walla, Washington.
That's right.
So Scotty, next thing they see is a device called an AG interrupter, and they use it on Scotty. So they describe the effect as laying a block of energy between the subject and the strongest gravity source. So you see Scotty kind of floating, sort of semi-weightless. So it's like a gravity blocker type of device, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the next thing he shows them is a little bit odd. He calls it a fire spider.
A hybrid
fire spider that lives on bacteria and has a 2-year lifespan. So this is kind of I guess it's supposed to be a living light source that lasts for 2 years. And it can sustain its own life by just absorbing bacteria that's in the air around it or on surfaces. And so Dr. Steckler proceeds to tell Kirk and company that the major breakthroughs they have been in the area of high-powered explosives and time travel. I'm not sure what kind of laboratory this is, but they've got a very diverse research area. Yeah. So at the moment, though, that moment, an emergency announcement comes over a loudspeaker and calls Dr. Steckler and our Enterprise crew to the time lab, where they find another doctor by the name of Lax has been murdered. So Dr. Lax was the leader of the time travel project, and one of his assistants discovers the body and tells Dr. Steckler that Dr. Lax's last words were "the bomb, find bomb." So we get a little bit of a exposure into what's been going on here with these high-powered explosives on this station. Dr. Steckler explains that he must be talking about what he's calling the N-cycle bomb, and he orders his assistant to go summon another professor by the name of Andres into the time lab. The lab assistant returns shortly thereafter and says that Professor Andres is also missing, and he gives Dr. Steckler a reel of videotape that was found in the space station's recreation area with a Post-it note stuck to it saying deliver it to Dr. Steckler. So on the tape, they find that Dr. Andres has stolen the bomb, and he's escaped through the time travel device, and it will explode on Earth sometime in the past in exactly 24 hours. So I guess they have no choice but to use the time travel device, which strangely is called a time travel cabinet, and to go after Dr. Andres to try to stop him from blowing up Earth. So another doctor by the name of, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, it's spelled NJAM, so maybe it's Nyam or Jam, not sure. So there's a ransom demand here by Dr. Najam, who I guess is working in cahoots with Dr. Andres, and he demands 1 billion credits.
1 billion credits.
Yeah. And not only is it 1 billion credits, but it's 1 billion FP credits, F.P credits. Yep. But it doesn't really say what FP credits are. I think we can kind of interpret that later by some other dialogue. But
right.
Spock ponders the evidence that's left behind and discovers that Dr. Lax, in his dying throes, was trying to reset the controls of the time machine just as he died, to leave a clue for anybody who would find his body on how to go back and find Dr. Andres. So they narrow the time frame down to either Southern California in either 1955 or 1855. So that the one number is kind of in between. They're not sure if it's 1955 or 1855. So we'll go ahead and stop here on page 7. And wow, quite a few things to talk about. One thing I really love, Ian, this is something that Star Trek has done so many times, and TOS is famous for this. Star Trek predicting future technology.
Yeah, airport scanners.
Yeah, that's really cool. And not only just airport scanners, but also body scanners. So the effect looks like an X-ray. So you're seeing Spock and Scotty and Kirk's skeletons in that one panel there on, was it page 3, panel 3.
Yeah, and the doctors apparently.
Oh, yes.
Which is weird because, like, why would you be operating it from the inside? But okay.
Yeah, well, you can see him there on the right operating the machine, and he's actually looking towards the reader. It's a little fourth wall break there.
Yeah.
Kind of glancing up at you. But pretty cool. I like that once again, Trek is predicting future technologies as they've done so many times in the past. Yeah. So pretty neat. And I think I like that anti-gravity device. That's kind of cool. It's kind of like a personal shield in a way.
Yeah.
That shields you from gravity.
You know, all these inventions, I kind of wish that they had been, spoiler alert, they don't get used later on in the issue. But like, I wish that they had, right? Because all 3 of those things, you know, including the creepy spider that I definitely, unlike Spock, would not leave in my survival kit, you know, could have been something that they could have used later on, right? Like, especially the anti-gravity thing.
Yep.
Or maybe, you know, use the X-ray for finding the bomb or something. I don't know. But, like, they could have done something with it. But, you know, I guess what they were really doing was just, you know, like, look at these fantastic inventions. This is a very advanced space station used for research.
Oh, well, here's a time for another one of our famous Gold Key rewrites. I think this could have been like Kirk's James Bond moment. Couldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
This could have been like a Gary 7 type thing where this guy is Kirk's Q. Right. It gives him all those cool gadgets to use on his time travel mission. Oh, what a missed opportunity.
Yeah, even when he looks at his watch, it's like, you know, just hand him the watch. You know, it's got a stun pellet in it or something.
He could have had the spider on his wrist.
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong?
Nothing. Oh, I love it. Well, it's a shame. It's a shame it didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
Speaking of inventions, I think we could have finally gotten a hoverboard out of that shield invention, though.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
Like stick that on the bottom of a piece of wood or metal and float above the ground with it and kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been pretty neat. But the time travel cabinet, that really threw me for a loop.
Just the name.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get it. It's a time machine. That's great. But a cabinet. I mean, I'm thinking like a wardrobe. You like climb inside,
yeah, exactly.
And you come back out and you're in a different time.
Like you got to take out the shelves first.
Yeah, and it doesn't. There's clothes in there. You gotta slide all the hangers to one side so you can fit. But it doesn't look like a cabinet though when they sit in.
No, not at all. But did you notice Dr. Lax? His hand is still on the dial. Yeah, even though he's dead.
Strong rigor how's right it there?
Yeah.
Really strong rigor. I guess the poor guy got shot in the back.
Yeah.
So it looks like there's a hole in the back of his tunic there. And it looks kind of like grisly, like his skin's melted or something.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, it does not look good.
No, it certainly does not. But I do like the fact that the chair he's sitting in looks a hell of a lot like a chair from the Enterprise bridge.
I noticed that too.
Very interesting. I guess Giolitti's gotten used to drawing those chairs. He was like, well, that must be standard issue chair back then. Whatever company sells those chairs, they sold it to the space station too.
Yeah, I forget which company, but yeah.
Oh, it's good times. But so 1 billion FP credits threw me off too, and I'm assuming, based on future dialogue, that those are Federation credits.
Yeah, or the exact dialogue was Federated Planets.
Yeah, Federated Planets credits. I'm kind of confused because I swore that they didn't use money back then.
Well,
maybe.
Yeah, they did. I mean, there's some lines about it. I mean, they had mentioned credits a couple times in the original series, and there was that line. I want to say it was in Balance of Terror where Kirk mentions, like Spock. Now you're going to earn your pay or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Good.
So like they still have money. I think it was really Star Trek IV that first introduced the "we don't use money" thing when he's at dinner with Dr. Taylor.
True. I guess they abolished it. Well, and then it was reinforced in, I guess, First Contact, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess so. I guess maybe between here and the voyage home, they abolished money.
Yeah. Maybe it would be a good opportunity to plug Manu Sadia's book, The Economics of Star Trek.
There you go. We'll clear all of that right up.
That's right.
Page 7, panel number 4. There is.
Oh yeah.
You see the dials and the readout on the time machine, and there's a little label on the machine that says time target. So this is where you adjust the machine to go back to whatever time, or I guess maybe you can go forward too. I don't know, but the thing that struck me as odd about this is it's only got a 4-digit year. So if you want to go anywhere beyond the year 9999, you're out of luck. It's a limited time machine. You would wonder why they would build 4 analog digits in, or analog digits at all, into this.
Yeah, and also like you could only go, from presumably like year 0, even though there wasn't one, to year 9999. So you couldn't even go further back in time past that.
Yeah, what does this imply? Does this imply that they know more about time than we do? That like after the year 9999, time ends. Like, that's when the universe implodes upon itself. It contracts back into, the individual particle, and then it rebangs. Wasn't that one of the theories put forth in one of the previous?
Yeah,
keys?
like that the universe will crunch and then explode all over again and create a new universe. Yeah.
Oh well, now we have a timestamp for it. Now we know exactly when it's going to happen. That's cool. I like the fact that in the panel below that one, there is a thing called the space position.
Yeah.
And I guess this is what tells Spock that he's in an area that he believes they used to call Southern California. Now, Southern California is a really big area. I mean, that's really not very precise for a Spock guesstimate. I mean, give us the name of a town or something.
But also, presumably, they still call it California in the future. Even if you are one of the people who subscribe to the fact or to the idea that the United States doesn't exist in Star Trek, even though I'm not in that particular camp, just given the new United Nations and all that. But California is like where everyone here went to academy.
Yeah, in San Francisco.
What California is. Yeah. Don't even kid.
They should know all of California. I mean, Spock should easily be able to identify, the general area, town or city that this guy transported to or near.
Right. Yeah.
I just thought it was weird that he used the reference of Southern California being a huge generalized area.
Yeah.
That seems very imprecise for Spock.
But I did like that the time machine had a separate space position thing, right? Because I was, even as a kid, that was one thing that always bugged me about, stories like The Time Machine, H.G.
Yes.
Wells,
Yep.
right? So he just gets into this completely stationary thing, and somehow we're supposed to believe that it is able to move with the Earth as it travels around the sun, and as the sun travels around the galaxy, and so on. Like, it should be, if you're in a stationary thing, right, that you set it even just like a month ahead, and suddenly you're floating in space.
Yes. Well, we could get into a whole long discussion about time travel and the different methods and machines and ways that have been done. I mean, Star Trek alone, there are so many different ways that they've time traveled. This one seems to be the most straightforward.
Yeah.
That it doesn't require slingshotting around a sun. It doesn't require cold starting the ship's engines.
All right.
It doesn't require finding a compact disc in a library and then jumping through a doorway. There's so many versions of time travel in this, but I'm sure that we could do a side issue or a side episode on time travel.
Oh, absolutely!
Compare and contrast the various.
So much to say.
Yes, we could definitely do. We should do that. That should be one of our supplementals coming up. Definitely. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. But funny thing is, that supplemental will probably be out long before this episode.
Yeah, probably.
But at any rate, anything else you want to say before we move on to the next section of the comic?
No. Let's move on.
All right, moving right along. Page number 8. So Kirk orders that the ransom effort go forward so that they can stall the criminals while he and Scotty go to the two different potential time periods and try to find Dr. Andres. So Scotty gets sent back first, and he goes back to the year 1855, wearing his uniform, of course. And he arrives, somehow magically arrives inside of a stagecoach, sitting alongside a young Spanish woman and an older-looking guy. And they're confused as to how Scotty got there. But before they can get any real details about Scotty, the stagecoach is robbed by a guy by the name of Billy Clancy and his gang of marauders. And they're searching, of course, for valuables on the passengers. And they're getting to Scotty, and Scotty's getting a little bit nervous because, of course, he's got his phaser on him. And if he gets body searched by these guys, they're going to find his phaser, which of course is future technology that they can't get a hold of. And Scotty winds up pushing one of the outlaws away as he comes close to him. This causes that guy to draw his gun, and Scotty whips out his phaser and uses it to stun one of the outlaws. So the other guys in the gang are kind of taken aback by this. They don't know what to make of it, and Scotty, thinking quickly, offers to sell his talents as a gunsmith to the outlaws as a way to try to buy his way out of the situation, and they accept. So, and of course the passengers of the stagecoach feel a bit betrayed, although they've only known Scotty for about 30 seconds
right
at that point. So their shock and awe is kind of unfounded. But so Scotty rides off with the outlaws, and along the way he learns of a doctor in a nearby town who has been performing miracle cures on sick people, which, if Scotty was familiar with Old West lore, he would know that was really commonplace.
Right, yeah.
Back then. This was not something that didn't happen back then.
Yeah, he just had some snake oil is all.
Yeah, the infamous snake oil salesman. But Scotty, he was born before he went back in time to look for anyone who stood out or seemed to have more knowledge or was inventing things or using his knowledge to help him sustain his existence in the past. So Scotty, of course, naturally makes the connection in his mind that this magic doctor may be Dr. Andres using some sort of modern medical equipment to cure people. So meanwhile, Kirk is also sent back in time, but he goes back to 1955, so 100 years in the future. And before he leaves, he tells Mr. Spock to try to hunt down Dr. Najam, who is somewhere in the present time and waiting to collect this ransom money. So it stands to reason that he could be found.
Yeah.
So Kirk goes back in time and winds up in what looks to be ancient Rome, and it assumes that there's been some sort of a mistake or the machine has malfunctioned, but instead finds himself on a movie set in Southern California a few panels later. So the machine worked properly, but Kirk's kind of beside himself and not sure what to do, and he's kind of stunned as a horse-drawn chariot passes by and almost knocks him down, and another guy nearby pulls him out of the way just in time. And the guy that pulled him away asks him if he's a stuntman that has been sent over to the set to perform a chariot jump. So Kirk's realizes,
like, yes, I am.
Realizes this opportunity, and he says, "Yeah, absolutely, yeah, I'm the guy." And so they send him over to the movie's director, Mr. Bovril. Which is an interesting name, Bovril, Bovrille. I think I'm pronouncing that right. So Kirk is talking to Mr. Bovril and hears about a new special effects guy they're working with who has these incredible talents, and he's especially good at making rockets and explosive effects. So Kirk puts two and two together and says, well, Dr. Andres was the rocket expert, so that must be him. He's got to get a hold of this special effects guy. So we're going to pull over here because now we've got this dual plot line. So we've got Scotty and Kirk both think they know where the guy is, but this is 100 years apart. So could he be in two places at once?
Maybe.
We'll have to wait and see. Wow. So real quick, page 8, panel 3, Ian. This is Scotty looking forward to going back to old California, and something that his dialogue here, he's sitting in the machine and it's starting to work, and he says, and I quote, "Yeah, old California, they say it was a mighty romantic spot. Spanish dons, gay senoritas." I'm not sure what that means. I'm assuming gay is in happy.
Right. I'm not sure what a Don is outside of The Godfather.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, was he? Yeah, maybe he was. It's almost like he was referring to almost like drug cartel or something, the head of a drug operation or something. Because Don to me seems like some sort of an underworld or underground leader of some sort of criminal organization.
Yeah, such romantic drug smugglers.
Yes, and they're gay senoritas. They're happy senoritas. I don't know. Strange. Sometimes these gold keys have some interesting dialogue choices, but I think they do this twice actually. Page 9, panel 1.
Yeah,
I love that depiction of that time travel with the kind of the ghostly Scotty flying through these rings of light and dark. They do it again with Kirk in a couple of pages. I thought that looked really, really neat.
Yeah, I totally agree. Although I do have one nitpick.
Oh boy!
And that's just in the caption. The plural of vortex is vortices, not vortexes.
Texas, yes. Good call. Good call. Well, that's not the first error we'll find in the gold key area. I think there's one coming up in a little while too. There's another one that I picked up on that I'll wait.
No way.
I'll wait to spring on us when we get there. But nonetheless, I do love the artwork.
Yeah,
in
totally.
That one and the Kirk one a couple pages later.
Yeah, in fact, I think I might actually like the Kirk one better.
Oh yeah, Kirk, the upside down going the other way, Kirk.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, one has to wonder why Scotty's moving in one direction through time and Kirk's moving the other direction through time, but they're kind of going in the same direction from where they're both going back in time, just to different places.
Well, time travel's weird.
Yeah, a little strange. Wrapping around. I love the fact that Scotty isn't even in the past 10 minutes and he already breaks the Prime Directive.
Right, yeah.
No thoughts about trying to subdue his attackers by other means. Just, whip that phaser out and use it. Might as well.
Yeah.
I guess technically speaking, they'd already seen him appear
Well,
in the
yeah.
stagecoach. So two of them witnessed him traveling in time or materializing out of thin air. So that in itself is probably a violation of some sort. But I guess maybe they have carte blanche here because they are going back in time to save Earth. So maybe they can suspend the Prime Directive or make an argument that, well, this was dire circumstances and we didn't have much of a choice here. We kind of had to do what we had to do.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing that kind of struck me as a little weird, right? Because I liked that Scotty just appeared in the stagecoach because, you sit in a chair.
Yep.
And then he appears in the coach and he's, sat down in the coach. But then Kirk, who's also sat down when he goes, through time, materializes standing up somehow.
Yep. It's the same as the old transporter question where, you beam up someone who's, laying in a slump on the ground and when they're get back on the ship, they're standing upright. So,
right.
Or vice versa. I mean, inexplicable. But I agree. I did pick up on Scotty sitting down as he materialized, and I thought that was a nice touch.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a shame that they couldn't do something consistent with Kirk.
Yeah, although that is some precision time machine wrangling there to get him to exactly on the seat of a moving stagecoach.
That's like transwarp beaming, right?
That's right.
Speaking of Kirk materializing, this is a few pages in the future here, but this is page 12 of the digital version of the comic. I really, really like that panel that shows Kirk from behind and he's looking at the movie set. Wow, that is so well drawn and well inked. I really love some of that detail. The horse looks great. The guy sitting on the horse, his outfit is really cool. I love the little work in the background with the buildings. It's such a great scene. I mean, Giolitti's really good at this kind of stuff.
He totally is. And like just a little thing that I thought of was that it's a movie set, so they probably didn't build Roman buildings all throughout the California countryside there. So I'm assuming that background is a matte painting.
I was going to say the same thing. So we're seeing Giolitti's rendition of a matte painting.
Yeah.
Drew a matte painting. But yeah, no, I absolutely would have to be. Especially in 1955. Yeah. Right? So fantastic. It's not digital.
It's got to be on like a soundstage somewhere,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you get the solid pink sky. So it stands to reason that's a painted backdrop. But good observation. I love that set. I wish that was a full page.
Honestly. Oh, totally.
Really do. But, I'm glad we got what we got. Again, fantastic detail on Kirk's uniform. The folds in the shirt and the pants and the shading. Just, I love it. I love it. I envy people who can draw like that. Because it's really, really cool. Let's see what else. Page 14. Skipping ahead slightly. Page 14. More odd dialogue in panel 1 where Kirk is talking to the director. And the director says, "Oh, you're the stuntman, eh? Didn't we work together on Trail of the Mohicans?" And Kirk says, "No, sir. I don't do Indian stunts." What does that mean? What are Indian stunts? I mean, does he mean like horseback stunts?
I don't know because like even if that was what he meant, it's like most of the same kinds of stunts would be in a Roman chariot movie.
It's weird. I was trying to piece together in my head what that could have possibly meant because I can't think of anything that's specifically a stunt that would be limited to Native Americans. You know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't.
Maybe it's the kind of thing that, you know, people in 1976 would have known. You know,
Yeah,
but
maybe it's
like we're so far removed from it now, from that whole, you know, cowboys and Indians Hollywood movie culture that that has just been lost to time.
Yeah, good call. I'm not sure. I can't even think about it. So maybe that's it.
Maybe that's one to ask your parents, kids.
Yeah. Hey, or anybody out here listening, if you remember back then, you were around and you know what that reference means, or have an idea, let us know. Post on our Facebook thread for this episode, or hit us up on Twitter, and we would love to hear what this could have possibly meant. Anything you want to say, Ian, before we move along? Anything I missed?
Just one last thing, which was that so this is obviously a stage, but I think it's an outdoor stage because that third panel on the last page that we were on, there's like that
Oh yeah,
you know, chasm in the background, and
Yep.
you know, I don't think that's part of a matte painting. You know what I mean? Plus the fact that you know, they end up running the chariots for a while. So I think it's yes, it's a set, but it's not like an indoor set.
Yeah, it's an outdoor shoot.
Yeah.
Well, it's in SoCal somewhere. And yeah, I good point, because the whole stunt thing, the stunt angle is Kirk is supposed to be riding a chariot over this giant chasm.
Yeah.
So so it must be out.
So maybe like a back lot, maybe, or something. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Or an on location shoot.
Could be.
We don't really know, but I find it's interesting that they are outside in full daylight and they have a lighting rig they're setting up.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe for later, maybe for some nighttime shooting. But all right, so we are moving on to what the comic says is part 2. That starts on page 15 of the digital version. There's a captain's log here, which is the traditional catch us up at the halfway point log. It says captain's log. In search of the nitrogen cycle bomb, Mr. Scott and I time jumped to separate locations where the bomb might be hidden. And we've got a full page spread here. Now, Scotty is in the foreground, and I guess he's changed clothes
yep.
into local garb, but he's firing his phaser into the air and shooting bottles that another one of the outlaws is throwing up into the air. And we'll get back to exactly what's going on here in a couple minutes when we stop. But the outlaws are planning a raid on a wagon train that they say is hauling Mexican silver. And they want Scotty to lend them his phaser, but he won't. He says, I'll go with you, but you can't take my phaser. I'll take it and I'll use it myself. So the outlaws wind up somehow... Scotty winds up falling asleep, and he's lying unconscious on a bed, and of course the outlaws go in and steal the phaser off of him. So when he wakes up, he realizes that the phaser is gone, so he's got to now also get the phaser back and at the same time try to find this Dr. Andres to get the doomsday bomb. So we've got a double jeopardy for Scotty here. Scotty runs outside, finds a horse, and jumps up on the horse and chases after them. How he knew what direction they went, I don't know. But he winds up catching up to them just as they start to attack the wagon train, and they're using his stolen phaser and firing all over the place and pretty much taking everybody out with this phaser so quickly that the defense of the wagon train kind of crumbles and they give up and start to load the silver onto the outlaws' wagon. And as they're doing that, Scotty sneaks up on them, picks up a discarded revolver from the ground, and confronts the bandit Billy. And of course, Scotty is getting overpowered by the phaser being fired at him. He's ducking and dodging and jumping under wagons, and He keeps almost getting hit, but just staying out of range until finally, as it always seems to happen in Gold Key, but never in the series, the phaser runs out of power.
Right.
So the phaser stops working. Scotty attacks. And of course, the men and women who are defending the wagon train realize that the super weapon isn't working anymore and gang up on the smaller band of outlaws and winds up defeating them. So Scotty takes the phaser back and rides into town to find this mysterious doctor that has been performing these miracle cures. But of course, Scotty rides in town and sees there's the familiar wagon and the good old con artist of the old selling his snake oil. Wah, wah. So now we know that Dr. Andres is not in 1855, and Scotty looks at the camera forlornly, realizing that his mission is a bust, and says, God, I really hope Captain Kirk can pull this off in 1955. So we're going to stop again here on page 20 before we get to Captain Kirk and the epilogue to the story, the ending to the story. And let's go back here, Ian, to the splash page for part 2. What in the hell is Scotty doing, wasting his time shooting bottles out of the air with his phaser? Why doesn't he just stun these idiots and go into town?
Leave. Yeah.
What in the heck is he even doing? I mean, time is ticking away here. It's 24 hours. That was the deadline. 24 hours. And the entire Earth is vaporized, and all of their futures are over. Everyone. So, what is he doing here?
Yeah. Like, even if, because it seems like the him passing out is like, getting dizzy and passing out is like some sort of effect of the time traveling.
That's what they say, yeah.
He could have still stunned them and passed out and probably still woken up before they did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he could have stunned them, tied them up, then passed out.
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems so ridiculous that he would be wasting his time. I mean, I understand that he felt that maybe he needed them to take him to where this doctor was.
Oh, yeah, maybe they don't, because he doesn't know where the town is.
Yeah. I don't know. Couldn't he just ask for directions from someone? I mean,
right.
It just seems so strange to me that he would be doing this. But anyway, we'll never know the answer to that question. But
but it was a good thing that there was a spare horse left behind.
Oh yes, thank God that they didn't slap the horse and make it run away. And it's, of course, the horse is fully dressed with a saddle and a bridle. And all the proper accoutrements for Scotty to jump on it and ride it. But I will say that page 16, that last panel with Scotty jumping on the horse, that's cool.
Yeah. That's
a cool illustration, man. Giolitti did a great job of capturing that action shot. Really.
Yeah,
cool.
and like, just as an aside, like, I don't know, have you ever ridden a horse?
Yeah, when I was younger, I did.
Like, they are huge.
They are massive.
And I have never understood how people could just like jump on one, just like hurl their leg over, like it is a monumental climb just to get on a horse for me.
Yes.
And I'm like 6'2".
Yeah. My grandparents, little quick side note, I'm not going to give you my life story, but when I was younger, my grandparents raised thoroughbred race horses.
Oh, wow.
And I had gotten on some of them when I was younger. And it was always a struggle to get on them, even the proper way, by putting your foot in the stirrup and slinging your leg over. That was not easy, man. So, and I was never a great horseback rider, so I didn't do it very often. I only did it a couple of times. But man, for you to jump on a horse that way, that's like movie style. You do the whole leapfrog the horse's butt and land in the saddle, especially when the horse is bucking like that.
Right.
Not an easy thing to do.
I think we can agree that Scotty here is just demonstrating how badass he is.
Yeah, absolutely. Considering the fact that there's no holodeck on the TOS Enterprise, so there's no way he was riding horses on the holodeck. So I can't imagine he's got much experience doing this. So to be able to just pull that off, out of practice, good on Scotty. Good on Scotty. So let's see what else. So I think we've mentioned this in the past when phasers have run out of power in Gold Key. that I think it only ever happened once on the original series that I can remember when a phaser ran out of power.
Was it out of power, or was it just like neutralized?
No, it was out of power because he had used it. Oh God, what was the episode? Oh, I'm gonna remember it as soon as we're done. But it was one of the ones with the corrupt captain down on the planet with the primitive people, and he used this phaser and
the Omega Glory.
Was it? Oh, you know what? I think it was the Omega Glory. Yeah, it was the Omega Glory because he was using the phaser just to mow down tons and tons and tons and tons of the Yangs, right?
Right.
And he did it until the phaser was completely depleted, right? And they just kept coming. So, but this is a familiar mechanic now in Gold Key.
Yeah.
They keep, and it's different authors who keep bringing it up. The fact that the phasers run out of juice.
As far as we know, different authors in this issue.
True. But at any rate, I like the fact that they're finding a relatively new way to neutralize the Enterprise technology. It's not just some phantom field that disables the technology. It actually runs out of power. So the batteries, even in the future, battery life sucks.
Yeah.
We curse our mobile phones now for crappy battery life, but
it's what they get for making those phasers so thin.
All of us customers, all we keep saying is we don't care how thin it is. We want better battery life.
Right.
Damn it. Just make it a little thicker. Give us a bigger battery, more milliamps. Oh, man. But yeah, anyway, so, I mean, this is something we were talking about earlier, I think before we started recording, but I feel like there are long sequences, relatively long sequences in this issue where it feels like not a lot happens for the amount of pages they use.
Yeah, like Scotty going away on the horse, right? So it's only 2 panels, but those panels are each a third of their respective pages.
Exactly. And now, granted, the artwork on those 2 panels is spectacular. Oh my God.
Yeah, man. Straight out of a John Ford movie.
Dude, page 17, panel 1. That looks like a Winston commercial.
Yeah.
Or there's the Marlboro Man riding across this beautiful scenic vista in the desert. I mean, simple scene, but it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it really does.
But yeah, I mean, it just seems like, not a heck of a lot happens for the amount of pages they use. And it kind of leads me to feel like there's not as much story in this. And it felt like there could have been so much more where you got 2 different time travel stories happening in the same issue.
Yeah. Should have been a lot more back and forth and, just more chase.
Yeah.
Less kind of dilly-dallying,
Yeah, agreed. I mean, this if this was a comic that was produced today, this would have at least been a 2 or 3 issue arc.
Yeah.
No doubt. I mean, you could have probably stretched it to 4 if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Or more. But, it's a shame because I think this story really could have been much better. I mean, we're not even at the end yet, so I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So we've got the end of it coming, but do you have anything else to add before we move on to the last few pages?
Yeah, so it's just a commentary on the bandits' plan.
Yeah.
So they take over the wagon train, an entire wagon train full of silver, and then they load all of that silver onto their one cart instead of just taking the wagons that they're already loaded on.
Good point.
Where's the logic in that?
God, that's a really good point because those are some very large wagons.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them. And you see in that establishing shot, right below the John Ford Marlboro Man.
Yeah.
Pick of Scotty, it's a whole line of them.
Yeah, and you can see the wagons when they circle them. There's quite a few. And let me tell you, I feel really bad for those horses pulling those wagons full of silver.
Oh my God, yeah.
Those cannot be light. Man, I mean, even I've held a gold bar in my hands, and they're pretty damn heavy. I can't imagine you got a wagon full of silver bars, being pulled by 2 horses. I mean, you'd probably have to have at least 4 or 6 pulling those, right? Wouldn't you think?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And yet we see only 2 per wagon.
Yeah, man. Maybe they only got like 3 or 4 bars in each wagon.
Yeah.
Oh man, but no, that's actually a really good point though.
Like, just what were they thinking?
They were very ill prepared for this. I mean, they should have.
These are not the best bandits.
No, if they were serious bandits, they would have killed all of those people and just taken the wagons.
Yeah.
That's what they would have done. I mean, well, maybe they're not all bad. But at any rate, that picture of Forlorn Scotty on page 20, panel 3 at the bottom.
Yeah.
Doesn't exactly look like James Doohan, but you can sense the pain on his face.
Yes. Yes, you can.
And you know what? If I was him right there, you know what I'd be thinking? How the hell do I get back to my own time?
Yes.
There's no device. There's no... we're going to get to this too. But he doesn't even seem remotely concerned that he has no method to get back to where he came from. Like, now he's in the Old West in 1855 with a depleted phaser.
Right. Like,
he's got nothing.
Maybe he's just going to Doc Brown it and, build a lab and...
build a time traveling locomotive.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, man. So let's see. Page 21, starting up the last few pages of this, and we are with Captain Kirk in 1955. He is performing this chariot stunt on the movie set, which...
Not an Indian stunt.
No. This is a Roman stunt.
He doesn't do those.
But no, God, I have such an issue with this. But I don't want to derail myself. Hang on. So he is doing this stunt, and he successfly flies over the chasm with the rocket-powered chariot. I feel bad for the horses, though. So he flies over, and only after he does the stunt and wrecks the chariot is he somehow able to go and talk to the special effects guy. Why he had to do the stunt first in order to... Couldn't he have just gone and talked to the... Never mind. So he bursts into the special effects laboratory and immediately accuses this guy of being Dr. Andres. And of course he's right. And Dr. Andres picks up a welding torch and attempts to attack Captain Kirk with it. Fortunately, the super hot torch didn't get close enough to burn Kirk. But Andres runs out of the door and is able to... I have no idea why this was even there. He jumps on a waiting chariot with horses attached to it and rides away. So Kirk runs out, and of course he's too late. But... Kirk looks around, sees that there are no automobiles, so he also has to find and commandeer another chariot with horses still attached.
Yeah.
To chase the doctor down a nearby California freeway, and here we are with the splash page playing out before our very eyes. So, flash forward to the future. Mr. Spock has also found his target, Dr. Najam, and he learns that the ransom was Dr. Najam's idea. And Dr. Andres wanted to hide the bomb somewhere in time until the ransom came through, and the Federation promised they wouldn't use, or the Federated Planets rather, promised they would never use the bomb. So once Andres had left to go back in time, Dr. Najam killed Dr. Lax and planted the videotape in order to profit off of this situation. So that's kind of underhanded, but back at the movie, it's a little convoluted, but back at the movie set, we're back in the past here. Kirk manages to catch up to Dr. Andres, and through an action sequence along the freeway with Kirk jumping between the two chariots and performing some death-defying feats, he's able to subdue Andres, and the bomb is in Kirk's capable hands. And as they part ways, Kirk promises to try to convince the Federation Council not to mass produce the bomb and put it into active military use. So somehow, inexplicably, everyone is returned to the proper time, and the crew is back aboard the Enterprise for another, in my opinion, failed comedic ending.
Oh, yeah.
To the episode. Boy. I really don't get what they were going for with this ending. But let's rewind really quickly before we get there. So Kirk performs this stunt, which I consider very ill-advised on his part.
Yeah.
But
yeah, what could possibly go wrong jumping over a cliff, a ravine?
On a rocket-powered chariot, no less. Now, let me just say, from the perspective of the film that they're attempting to make, wouldn't a rocket-powered sled be very inauthentic? I mean,
at the very least.
I just don't get how the director thought that they could get away with a rocket. I mean, the rockets, obviously, when you see the drawing, and you see the flames shooting out of the back of this chariot, that had to show up on camera.
Yeah, the only thing that that I can think of as any kind of an excuse is, I think it's on the last page. Yeah, the last page where the director is like, we can make this film no matter what, even though it's got cars in the background and all that kind of thing on a freeway. So I don't think that this particular director is too concerned about historical accuracy.
Yeah, no, I suppose not. Yeah, that's skipping forward to the action sequence on the highway. Yeah, they really seem to want to use that footage regardless, and they're going to actually try to.
And with the ray guns.
Yeah, with the ray guns. So they're going to kill off the writers and use this in the movie no matter what. But back to Kirk busting in on Dr. Andres. Now, I mean, God, Kirk, why wouldn't he use a little bit of subtlety here? I mean, it seems to me that he would kind of waltz in, and because I mean, Andres has no clue who Kirk is. It's not like he'd recognize him on sight. He'd just walk in and say, "Hey, man, nice work on those rockets. How's it going?"
Stun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he just busts in, immediately accuses the guy, and escalates the situation. I would think in all of Kirk's experience that, his cooler head would have prevailed. I mean, we've seen Kirk absolutely as cool can get in the face of certain death. Many times in the past, Kirk has maintained his cool. So this seemed a little out of character.
Yeah.
To me.
I have questions about Dr. Andre here. So we see him earlier, over a teleconference thing, right?
Yep.
Earlier in the issue. And he's got black hair with graying temples, and now suddenly he's got blonde hair, and he's wearing a toga even though he's the special effects supervisor.
He's fitting in. He stopped off at a nearby gas station, bought a box of hair dye, dyed his hair in the bathroom sink at the gas station, as every time traveler does, and somehow with no credentials whatsoever, got a job on a movie set as a special effects guy.
Yeah, and just at the very least, when you're welding stuff, maybe don't wear a toga.
Yeah, no, I mean
safety first,
Yeah, wear some protective clothing, as welders often do.
Yeah, and in fact, he's already got the face mask up as he's welding. That can't be good for your eyes.
Yeah, no, not at all, not at all. I agree. Well, yeah, poor choices. But that aside, even more poor choices. I just don't see how animal handlers would leave horses attached to chariots just hanging around the movie set completely unattended. They're just hanging out there for anyone to jump in the chariot and take off.
And all they would have had to do to like correct that would have been just to have, some guy running after the chariot going, "Hey, wait, those are my horses."
Exactly.
That's it.
No security guards on the set, no animal handlers, no hands around, just managing the props. They just kind of let the horses meander around with the chariots attached to them. Not valuable studio property at all.
No, I'm sure it cost them nothing.
Yeah.
I did think at first, well, why didn't Kirk go for one of the cars out in the presumed parking lot?
Mm-hmm.
But then I remembered a piece of the action. He doesn't drive cars very well.
No, especially manual transmissions. And back in the this is 1955, they'd all be manual transmissions. If I recall correctly. I don't remember exactly when the first automatic, but I don't think it was 1955. I think it was a little bit later than that. So
of course, watch us both be wrong and get like tons of tweets saying, "Oh my God, I was in the 50s." And
that's okay. Please do. If we're incorrect, I'm just going by memory of my mom's car back when I was a kid. It was a manual, and my uncle's car was a manual when I was a kid. They were 60s model cars, and I'm sure there was automatic sometime in the 60s, but I don't recall the year at which they came out. I guess we could Google, but we'll let ourselves be incorrect if we're incorrect.
And either way, right? Like manuals were definitely like preferred.
Oh yes. I distinctly remember my grandfather saying when I was young, he was very much against automatic transmissions, even through the 80s, because he felt they quote unquote weren't perfected yet.
Right.
So, that's a vivid memory of mine, because I remember the arguments between him and my other family members who all preferred automatic transmissions by that time. But let's see. Something I really, really liked, and this is just kind of a brief throwaway comment by Spock, but I love this. On page 22, panel 2, I love that Spock acknowledges that everyone, including Spock, will cease to exist if the Earth is destroyed. So acknowledging that his mother would not exist and he would never be born.
And
Vulcans would be fine, but he would not.
Right.
I love that. I love that they have that nod in there.
Plus, to say nothing of the Federation itself.
Yes.
Without Earth being there. I mean, that was the whole Borg plot in First Contact, right?
Exactly. Everyone wants to do that. Everyone wants to destroy Earth. But no one goes back far enough in time, and everyone tells somebody that they're doing it so that people can go back and stop them. I mean, if you really wanted to go back and end Earth, go back to, prehistoric times with your bomb and don't tell anyone you're going there.
Right.
And you're done. You're good to go. I have a real problem with how they got back to the present.
Yeah.
It doesn't say, it doesn't show them coming back. It doesn't say, I assume that they waited, like Spock waited 24 hours, and since he was still alive, he figured, well, I guess they succeeded. I'll bring them back.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, because they don't have any sort of communication between time periods. There's no communicators that work. They don't have devices with them. They can't press a button and be transported back. This just seems really ill-planned to me.
Yeah.
So, I just assumed that the only logical thing I could come up with was they waited the requisite 24 hours when the bomb was supposed to explode, and when it didn't explode, they assumed that one of the two of them were successful and brought them all back.
Yeah. That's the only explanation. Although, was the bomb actually active, though? Right? Because it's clear that this guy didn't want to use it.
No,
and if he did use it, then it would have never existed anyway.
Oh, nice paradox.
right?
Nice paradox.
So,
well, actually, you could look at it a few different ways. So, one, yes, if you use it, it may never have existed, or it could have caused a serious rip in space time because of the paradox. May have destroyed everything. You could have taken the whole universe out.
Could have been. And plus, like, why didn't he just, I don't know, go to the Federation and Council and be like, hey, we developed this really powerful thing. Don't use it.
Or hey, deliberately sabotage your work.
Right.
And make it not work.
Use protomatter or something.
But, yeah. You mix in a small percentage of tar.
Yeah.
So the kryptonite doesn't work right. I have this plot has been used so many times in the past, and I know it's been used in Star Trek too, with the whole scientist that has to develop a doomsday weapon, but doesn't want anyone to actually use it.
Yeah.
I kind of like that, but I'm really not really fond of this implementation of it. I think this just doesn't feel. I just think there was a simpler way to do away with the bomb than going back into. I mean, what was Andre's overall eventual plan? I mean, was he just going to stay in the past with this bomb? I mean, what if the Federation never agreed not to use it? So then he's like, well, I guess I'm stuck in 1955 making rockets
with blonde hair
chariot movies. That just seems like a very, ill thought out plan to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway,
I don't know. It was an excuse for some, good horseback riding, though.
Yeah. So, as I said at the beginning of this comic, I am always on board for time travel stories. It's one of my favorite science fiction devices. I love time travel. And I was a little disappointed that this one didn't pay off as much as I'd hoped it would, because Star Trek time travel is always kind of fun.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of fun in TOS doing time travel, and there's fun time travel in TNG, and I just, there was an opportunity here for some really cool stuff. I mean, the length of the comic really held it back, but
yeah, that the length of it definitely made that ending feel even more rushed than usual.
Yeah, this was mega rushed.
I mean, you basically had like 4 panels.
Yep. And 2 of those panels were the epilogue. The comedic quasi wrap up of with Spock making some remark about Scotty's prowess with women.
Yeah, and like I don't remember any Don Carlos with the sister. Are those the people on the
people
chariot?
On the stagecoach?
Or the stagecoach?
Yeah.
And like how would he expect to meet them, find them again? And even if he did, like they're kind of upset with him.
Yeah. It seemed silly to me that he would have even. I mean, he saw them for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, right? And
right,
and he'd already had it in his head that he wanted to romance this woman. It just seemed really. I guess maybe they were trying to go for the comedic ending and they couldn't come up with anything better.
Yeah,
maybe there was a good bomb joke in there.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's a shame. I mean, I would maybe Kirk could have made a reference to, hey guys, when I was down there in that movie set, God, it reminded me of Bread and Circuses.
Right.
I thought I was back in that episode again.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, that comedic ending falls flat, as a lot of the ones in Gold Key seem to. They were so successful with them in the original series. I loved so many of those kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, funny outros, but they just can't seem to get them right.
No, they can't.
Well, anything else to wrap this issue up before we get to our essential votes?
No, I think I've said about all I have to say.
Well, I think my cards have been flipped already. I think looking for essential bits of this comic, the only thing that I can, kind of even half hang my hat on as something that this introduces to the Trek universe is the time travel mechanic, and the fact that they have a space station that looks just like one from 2001, A Space Odyssey, where they build. Well, you know what? Maybe that's a connection. Maybe that 2001 and Star Trek happened in the same universe.
Hey, who knows?
Who knows? But the only thing I can think of that may be anything remotely essential would be the time cabinet. But even that, we have other time travel mechanics in Star Trek. And, in my mind, the fact that the time cabinet exists and I'm dumbfounded by the fact that these scientists work in this space station under, Federated Planets jurisdiction, and they're allowed to experiment with and use a time machine without some sort of oversight. I mean, it just seems to me like the Federation would have people there monitoring that thing 24/7, because that is, God, that is essentially the ultimate weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody with any nefarious, look at what happened. Anybody with any nefarious desires that gets a hold of that time machine can go back and wreak all sorts of havoc, and the chances of you being able to stop or reverse it are slim. If I were to call this essential, it would introduce a very scary element, I think, into the Trek canon universe. So I'm going to give this one a non-essential, because I just think there's just really, as much as I would love to be able to call it essential, I just don't think I can.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. My vote is non-essential, but I did really enjoy reading this one.
I did too.
And so I would say non-essential but recommended.
Yeah, honorable mention.
Yeah.
Honorable mention. We have a few of those in the Gold Key series. But yeah, I agree. There's a lot to like about this, even though I was disappointed in the time travel action in this one. I really was hoping for more out of it. But again, like we said before, it's the limitations of the length of the comic. You just really can't do a hell of a lot with
and this is a really dense comic.
And I think again, they waste a lot of time, with overly long sequences that eat up a lot of page space. And we could probably, you and I could rewrite this and make a better story out of it and use the space better. But you know what? It is what it is. And it was still a fun read. A lot of great artwork in this.
Oh, absolutely.
Giolitti killed it, I think. A lot of good likenesses and a lot of great varied topographies with the two different time places, and the outer space shots are cool, even though the space station is a total ripoff.
Yeah. It's probably one of Giolitti's most solid work to date.
Yeah, very consistent. There was nothing really in this issue that made me raise an eyebrow from an artistic standpoint.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, all of it was really cool. And you know what? We didn't see the outside of the Enterprise at all in this issue.
Not one bit.
Amazing.
Yeah, the only time we even saw any part of the Enterprise was those last two panels where we're on the bridge.
Yeah, the last two panels. So, almost an issue with no Enterprise whatsoever. But wow, usually that's one of the things we nitpick about Giolitti is his different drawings of the Enterprise. How sometimes it looks great, other times it looks off.
Yeah, he skated by on that one.
Yeah, he dodged our ire. But so unfortunately,
or admiration.
Or admiration. So unfortunately, double non-essential on.
But recommended. But recommended. I would say read this one. It's fun.
Yeah, definitely it's fun. So we are at the end of issue 36 of Gold Key Comics, and as we always do, Ian, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ian128K as in kilo.
All right, and I am on Twitter at J_BENJ. That's my personal Twitter. And you can find the show at the tricordertransmissions.com, TTT_pod on Twitter, and Facebook.com/the Tricorder Transmissions. And we'd love to hear from you. So please, join us on social media. Talk back about these episodes. We love to hear from people. And, if you would be so kind, if you jump on over to iTunes and give us a review there, we would really, really appreciate it. And, also if you feel like it, jump on YouTube as well and give us a like on YouTube. Yeah. Let us know what you think of our episodes. Really, really appreciate the listener feedback. And, I guess that brings us to the end of another episode. And we will see you guys next time.
Same Trek time, same Trek channel.